Hi, Kevin Blanche. Today I'm going to talk about the global monetary system. I've had several emails by several different people wanting to talk about this. It's one of my favorite subjects. And I think the best way to explain what goes on as far as the global monetary system and, of course, the dollar versus the euro. My biggest thing that I like to point out, my biggest trading tool is the dollar. The dollar to the euro was 80 cents in 2000. Okay, 2003, we invade Iraq. It goes to $1.60. It's a 100% move. Huge, huge. Now, let's talk about the global monetary system and how it all hinges together. You know, what are we, $1.38? That's why the market's moved up a little bit, and oil is really hinged to it big time, big time. I write all about chapters in my Weighted Wealth Index about weighting against oil, gold, blah, 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 blah. But I want to talk about interest rates in the global context and why it all matters now. It didn't used to matter in the old days. Iceland exposed the flaw. It's called the carry trade. It's called a freaking arbitrage. Now look, okay, so you're in the United States, 0% Fed rate, okay? So if you put money in a long-term deposit, you can borrow money. If you have a good credit rating, you can borrow money, 5% on a mortgage. So here's what happened in Iceland. Iceland says, we're not going to play this game. We're going to kill inflation. We don't care if this science fiction bullshit goes on in the United States. We need to stop it. So they kept raising their Fed rate. Anyway, their interest rate got clear up into the name of 14, 15%. Okay, so here's what happens. Say you have a country that the rate moves high as they're trying to cure inflation. They're doing their own thing. They're not participating in the global G20 context. So here's what happens. So you got a house. You got $30,000 in equity in the house. You go to an American bank, which you can borrow globally. People think you can't. No, you can. They expose that you can. So you go in there and you borrow at 5%. You'd put the money in a CD in your countries at 14%. That's exactly what went on. It's the biggest arbitrage I ever saw. Arbitrage is supposed to make markets efficient. This one didn't. Okay, so you draw 9% on your money, free. There's the whole context. So everybody starts doing it. So what does it do? Balloons up real estate pricing. Even worse than ours ballooned up via the small, cheap, easy money. So what happens? Average house starts going from, worth $100,000. Over time, ends up worth $1 million. Then you got a massive, massive housing bubble on your thing. And sooner or later, it's going to burst. And it burst in Iceland and it bankrupted the country. So there's the problem. Say you're in Germany and you're using the euro. Say you're in, Italy, Greece. There's the dilemma too with the euro. You got Greece, Spain, Ireland in trouble where other countries are okay, and they're not going to freaking help each other out because just out of the goodness of their heart, they have to. They have to for this set reason. Look, if the United States, which has been the banking giant, of course, the other thing is communist China, and there's another big issue in my whole NAFTA thing, why I'm all for tariffs. Look, China cheats on their currency. Now, let's talk about it. Okay, say the United States, we're at what, about 38 today from 80 cents? So classical medicine, what that does, it will make our goods cheaper, correct? As our currency gets weaker and weaker and weaker, our goods become more attractive, right? Well, here's the problem in the United States. We don't make anything. It's called classical medicine, and it does work, but we don't make anything, so people can't buy up our freaking goods. So there's the indifference. But the global monetary system is all tied together now. Now, granted, currencies move against each other, and it's a great way if you're a investor. It's a great tool. It's my number one tool is the dollar versus the euro. Think about the dollar versus the yen or the euro. What's the yen right now? 83 cents? Who would ever believed it? Who would ever believe that the Canadian dollar was equal to the American dollar? Somebody 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago, as I grew up as a trader in the finance world, would have flipped their look. They'd never believed you. I remember I went to a conference And the head of the Euro, one of the EU bank execs, may have even been the president of the EU bank, spoke. I was in Manhattan, he spoke. And the euro was sitting at 78 cents that day, that's the dollar. And he made the comment, we hope someday to have the euro equivalent to the American dollar. That was in, do you know when that was? You think the euro hasn't been a lot? That was in 1999. Who would have believed one election and freaking 2 wars later, it was only just a matter of a few years after that. A few years. Yeah, you weren't hoping for equal to the dollar. Went to $1.60. And if you're in the United States and or Europe, euro goes to, oil goes from what, $14 a barrel in 1999? At one point it was 160. What is it? We're 100 now. So that's the arbitrage and the carry trade is why these central banks have to work together. Because the arbitrage traders, which that's what I was when I was on Wall Street, we'll find them and snip them out just like that. And we'll carry trade them. We'll find a way. And boom, we'll pick up those efficiencies, and and it'll hurt one country versus benefit the other. And so that's why the monetaries of the so-called G20, and that's why you hear so much spew coming out about China cheating. It's another debate that I'll debate anybody with, the so-called freaking free market guys, that it does not work. Now, I posted on my website 10 times is what imports from China have went up since NAFTA. I have the numbers quantified. Stay with me. Kevin Blanche, March 3rd, 2011.